Hello, and welcome to Your Point, My View, a conversational podcast where every viewpoint matters. My name is Valisa, and with me today, I've got my panel of co hosts. I've got Bobby and I've got Chopper. Say hello to the folks, everyone. Hello,
Well,
everyone. Y'all. Hello. Okay. So today, and we're missing Tanya today, but she'll be back the next episode. So it's just the three of us today, but that's okay. Um, we hope you enjoy our topic today, which is going to take us a journey on caregiving in today's world, navigating the caregiving culture for family and how that support looks in today's world for everyone. We know that caregiving has become almost a norm amongst what are we generation what are we? What do we call ourselves? We're not X. What are we?
I'm a millennial.
Oh,
I know what I am. I'm a millennial.
gotta love it, Bobby. Like correction,
All right, thank you for
So,
that shade tree.
really?
Shade.
I'm just saying, I'm a millennial.
I'll follow right behind you. I'm a
Yeah.
millennial too, so
Oh my gosh! I guess if Lear's a millennial, I am too. So
Yes.
all right, so we got okay. We all on the same page, but for our generation, caregiving has become just part of life nowadays. Whether we are caregiving for our aging parents, or maybe even some people have their own grandkids. Some people are caregiving for maybe other relatives, aunts, uncles who are aging and need some assistance, who may not have kids around or someone around who can help them. So, extended family is taking care of family. So, everyone here today on our platform in some way, shape, or form has been touched by this. And if we could briefly just share as much as we want of our story with the viewers, just to give them a little bit of a background of what we are or how we got here in the caregiving. You don't have to go into deep detail. Like for instance, for me, a few years ago, my mom moved in with our family, and at the time, she was vibrant. She was independent, very active, and she had never really faced any serious health issues. And she was the one, I'm a DIYer, and my mother was right by my side. She was my sidekick. So she would do yard work. She cooked, made her own meals. She managed her own apartment that's within our home, and she loved to decorate. She'd take my aunt shopping, so she drove. She was still driving. She was always on the go, and then out of nowhere, she got sick. And at first, we thought it was something that she bounced back quickly, but it turned out to be something that we have to walk through. And slowly and painfully, it's been a steady climb ever since. And right now, I provide 100% of her care. And thankfully, now she's on the road to recovery, but that road has been a bumpy one and one that I have never been on. So I'm navigating. I feel like sometimes I'm navigating in the dark, and I'm learning to find resources to help me. I always knew this day would come. I just never knew it would come so soon. So I was not prepared. So that's my story right now, where I'm living it. Anybody else want to share?
well, I'll jump in and share. So I'm in a semi role, not a complete caregiver, but my aunt, my mother's sister, her husband and her two sons have passed on. And so she is really by herself, and by herself away from family. And so trying to navigate how to best take care of her from a distance. Um, of course, she does have her grandson and her grandkids and her brothers, but of course, not the grandkids, but the brothers are all, as they like to say, up in age. And so trying to make sure that my only, aunt that's still living is, well taken care of whether it's, making sure that she has things to eat, or that her business is, her affairs are lined up, correctly. Making sure that she's not being taken care of. So, or not taken care of, but taken advantage of. Um, so yeah, that is my story in a sense. And it's just not me. But I also have like my siblings that jump in every now and then to try to assist as well.
Okay.
So for me, it's centered around my father-in-law. So about a year and a half ago, my father-in-law was living on his own independently, moving around freely, and just navigating life. And then all of a sudden, he got ill, and he had to got to the point where he couldn't do for himself, and he had to be relocated to live with my wife and myself. Um, and to get him back to a place of significant health was a journey in itself, because it had been a long time since I've been exposed to taking care of someone that just can't do for themselves in the moment. The last experience I had like that was with my grandfather, and this was a long time ago when I was a teenager, and I lived with him for, I'll say, maybe 5 or 6 months, and it was right after my grandmother had passed away. So living with him, I didn't. I felt like I had a lot of responsibility, but I didn't know how to handle it. But I was the best one suited for it, since we got along. We had a pretty good relationship. But fast forward to now, it's like I had another opportunity to take care of that with my father-in-law. So getting him to eat, making sure that he's dressed, making sure that he's staying mobile. Those are the things that we focused on. It wasn't just me, it's my wife and her two sisters as well. So, it does take a village, and we're all doing that. But being that I work from home, I'm basically like the primary caregiver. So, when it comes to taking him to his appointments and making sure he has his medication and communicating with nurses, doctors, and affiliates, that I take that responsibility because I have the most access, so to speak. Um, and like I said, it's been quite a journey. I've learned a lot about myself, and but at the same time, though, I've grown closer with it.
So, sounds like for all of us, caregiving is our reality today. And many others out there are experiencing the same thing, whether that caregiving is for a short term or a long term. It can, when we've just talked about, it can happen in the home, it can happen across state lines, often unplanned, right? Although some people do have plans in place, like even long term care insurance, so for things like that. But a lot of it just comes out of the blue, and we are thrown and thrusted into that role, and so it can definitely be a sudden responsibility, and it can be an emotional um, journey that we go on, because it's the physical, it's the time, it's the energy and resources, either using our resources or finding resources to help our loved ones, and definitely advocating for them, right? Especially at doctor's appointments. And Bobby, you mentioned the medication, and Lyra, you mentioned Chopper, you mentioned advocating for your aunt. So we are all in; those are just aspects of the role, right? Um, so what do you think? So let's look at the system now. What does caregiving look like now, in your opinion, when you look at the cultures and everything that's out there now? Um, what are your thoughts on it?
I'm going to say like culturally, but I just think that because this is an aging population, like I'll just say what me and my sister say. We could remember when we were kids, and we would be like, oh, our uncles and our aunts, but now we're the uncles and aunts because they've aged. And what I think about is that ability just really to have to be able to step up and to be able to assist, right? Because I saw them also in the role of being a caregiver for their parents, right? Or for their mom and their dad, as a matter of fact, my aunts and uncles. So I think what I feel like it looks like, it looks like families that come together to ensure that the aging generation, your aging family members are being taken care of. And I know that in different cultures, I think this is probably where you were going, Lisa. In different cultures, family steps in to help, you know. Um, I can also just, speak and think of or certain instances in my family where my grandmother kids took her in, or you'll have an aunt staying with you or an uncle, because I think if I think about my mom, I think that's what we were taught to do. We were taught to look out for each other, to take care of each other.
That's a
Yeah,
great point.
I agree. Yeah. Um, I know that growing up, I remember my grandmother took care of her mother and her mother's brother. And my great grandmother was a double amputee, so through diabetes. So she and my I don't know, was he my uncle? I don't know, but my great grandmother's brother, he had one of his legs missing. His name was Honey. I remember. They had those names in the South.
Oh yeah.
I remember Honey. And but the point is, they lived in the home with my grandmother, and I am sure, based off of the environment and the community that they lived in, it wasn't like they got stuff from the government. I mean, or a lot of the, not saying they didn't get anything from the government, but they weren't a lot of programs back then, because that was like almost 40 years ago that I grew up with that, seeing that, as compared to what's now. So our culture grew up, or it was accepted in our culture, and an expectation that family would take care of family. Um, but I don't see that now. But we'll get to that. So, but other cultures that I can think of that comes to mind where it's like a give me are the Asian cultures. I just see that family, that multi generation family there, and yeah, that's the one culture that I can kind of think of that they definitely take care of their elderly. It's like an expectation.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. When I think about taking care of those who are up in age and older now, like Chopper said, like a lot of the aunts and uncles that we are the uncles and uncles, right? Like we're getting up in age, right? And we have to make sure that things are in place that so where other family members they want to take care of us, and sometimes they just don't have the means to. That we have those lined out. Sometimes it's very difficult to do. Um, I know growing up, whenever there was even a mentioning of a nursing home, my parents would get upset. Like, hey, no, that's not how we operate. Like, we're going to make sure we do what we need to do to take care of each other. So that's what we did. But there comes a time where there's only so much you can do, and your resources get exhausted, and you're exhausted. It's like, okay, what do we do? And at that time, you need that specialty care. And that's when you get relocated to a rehabilitation center or a nursing home, things of that nature. Um, you do have some families where, they'll let you know straight up, like, look, you get sick, you go in a nursing home. I'm not dealing with that. Regardless of their personality. Maybe it's just how they think. Okay, that it is what it is. If they feel like they can't handle that workload, okay, I'd rather have someone put me in a nursing home. Um, Others would say they'd rather take care of you at home. But I think now people are kind of shying away from going to the nursing home. That's just my opinion because it's like it's like you're stashing your loved ones off and you don't know how they're being treated and things of that nature. So if you don't want to risk that, you just rather attempt to take care of them yourselves. Um, Along with the Asian community, I think the Hispanic community does a good job of that as well. Because a lot of their motives are family centric. Everyone will live in the same residence and work and build, and just to make sure that they have what they need. And if someone does get sick, you have multiple hands that can help. Um, but those are the most prominent. Now, and I'm not saying that other cultures don't do it because I believe that we do, but it's just more prominent in the Asian and Hispanic communities. I believe.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I think our Western culture today doesn't there's caregivers there, but the gener the generation, and this is just me. I'm not saying this is a statistic or anything. It's more of the kids are raised to take care of themselves and be on their own and independent, and not necessarily think about taking care of anyone other than themselves. And I sometimes feel like that's the key that's missing, that the younger generation doesn't have that sense of family, that sense of what word am I looking for? That sense of help me out here. That sense of y'all like, what are you talking about? That sense
I get
of
what you're
this
saying.
this.
Probably more. I think it's just a sense of self care. I think it's a sense of urgency. I think that when you're so self absorbed, which is what some of these generations are, you can't see anything but yourself, right? And I think that might be maybe a little bit of where you're trying to hint at. If you're self-absorbed, then you can't. You only think of and about you. I think that maybe care is missing. They don't care the way that we were taught to care. You know, and I'm not saying everybody, and I'm just saying that there are some that just don't. So
Yeah, I'm scared for me. I mean, I love my kids, but for me, we joke about this all the time, and it's funny. It's like, stay healthy. Do not go down because you don't know where your kids gonna put you. I joke, and I know my daughter's joking when she says this because she's a firefighter, and she goes into different facilities. She was a paramedic in the beginning of her career first, and she said, "I found some great facilities for you. If when the time comes for you and Dad to go in, I got some good places for y'all to go." I'm like, okay,
At least
I
she has
am
a
going
plan.
to. I'm going to take care of myself. And we always talk about this self care. Take care of yourself, especially if caregivers, right? We have to take care of ourselves. I my knee is going out on me, and my mom lived on a lower level, a walkout level of our home, and going up and down those stairs, I'm telling you, it was a beast. And it wasn't until I say, hey, I have to first take care of me, then I can go and take care of her. And I got up and I began to stretch to make sure that before I started going up and down the stairs, I just stretched, did some exercises, and took care of my body first. And I'm telling you, it felt so much better. I felt so much better. And that just goes to show that you can't take care of anybody until you take care of yourself. That's why they say self-care is so important, especially as a caregiver. What do you, when you think of taking care of yourself, what do you do to take care of yourself first so that you can be there for your loved one?
That is a really good question. And I would also like to add to your point. Um, and well, actually going back to Chopper's point about, like the younger generations being, self-absorbed, things of that nature. I think that as adults, with children or if we're guardians over children, we do show them how to take care of themselves. That's a part of growing up and being independent. I get that, but sometimes we are so strong, and as parents, we put on the facade of being so strong and being so, hey, I'm going to get the job done, that we don't let our kids know when we are down or when we are weak, so they don't have opportunities to actually quote unquote take care of us, right? And so I think a part of it, especially with me, me and my wife raising my son, is like, hey, this is what it looks like to take care of yourself. We have to allow you to do things on your own. But in retrospect, you see how much time and energy we're putting into taking care of someone else. So, and we're not expecting you to do it the exact same thing for us per se. What we're saying is, hey, you have to be willing to navigate that space when the time comes in the correct way. We want you to be compassionate. And I think that's the component that sometimes is missing. Some people like, hey, I want to live my life. I'm not going to be burdened by someone else. So I would rather stick you somewhere, or I'd rather put you somewhere. And that's their motive. But it's all about having that conversation with your children, saying, "Hey, we want you to be independent." And just like on an airplane when it's going down, guess what? You got to put your mask on before you put someone else's on. Self care is important. Got to take care of yourself first, and we want you to do that. But we also want you to emphasize that care part of it. Yeah, care goes both ways, right? You have to make sure that you're putting yourself in that position. Which leads me to your response, the response to your question, Valisa, self care. I struggled with that a lot, especially when my father in law entered my home because everything was about him. At least for me, everything was about him because it was, to me, it was life or death. We got to get this under control, right? Um, so there were times where, my wife and I were exhausted. There were times that we were just tapped out, like, man, we just got to find a way to get some rest. But at the time, we couldn't stop moving. We couldn't stop. So I would say just being intentional to just have a few minutes to yourself. Being that I work from home, sometimes I just take an extended lunch break just to kind of just be to myself. And that's cool. That's my time. That's what I do, right? Sometimes, my wife and I plan vacations and we just go like a staycation or something where we're not too far from him, but relatives step in, like his oldest daughter steps in and makes sure that she's available and takes great care of him while my wife and I have some time away. So we lean on those types of resources just to make sure that we're not getting burnt out. It's really about being intentional in that because you're no good if you're not taking care of yourself. You know.
And I would say, most of the times when you're in a caregiving role, and I can just think like about my aunt when she was a caregiver to her family and to her mom and to her husband and to her, her kids. You just forget it. You get so absorbed into what you just said, Bobby, their care that you forget like about your care. And there was plenty of times that she was sick and she kept pushing because their care was quote unquote more important, to her than her own self care. And so as I, help try to, navigate some things with her, even though this I'm here and she is where she's at, don't y'all didn't think I was gonna tell y'all where I was at, right? So yeah. And where she's at, it goes back to being intentional, but then I also realize there are times when I just don't have the capacity, right? I just don't have that space in that moment, in that time, in that week, to be able to kind of chime in. Um, but I think it's really about just to your point, Bobby, of being intentional. And so, like Lisa, I also get up in the morning and stretch, but that doesn't have to do with like the care. It's just the fact that I need to do it anyway. So
Uh, the care is, I think, the most critical part to their care. You know, and caregiving, you got to give not only to them, you got to give to yourself first. Fuel that tank first. I just find, and I still find it challenging. Don't get me wrong. I have not. I sometimes I feel like I'm just going and going, but I don't have structure. Now, if I feel like sometimes I feel like if I can, some of the things I do to try to get structure is I have a whiteboard in her area, and I have when the nurses are coming, what appointments, everything is just on the whiteboard where I can move, scratch off when it's done, or take a check mark so I can visually see for the month. So that has helped me um, stay structured as far as keeping up with her. So I don't feel like I'm just all over the place keeping up with her appointments. And so I don't feel like I'm all over the place. I've also learned to have notebooks when I'm going to those doctor's appointments instead of trying to remember everything. Some people have said too that, and these are things that you who are listeners can probably, if you're taking care of someone, if you haven't thought of some of these things, to record the doctor's visits, because you have the time, you can't remember everything that they say. Um, And I just do shorthand, and then sometimes I find I can't even read my own writing, so because I'm trying to do stuff, so I have to stop doing that. I'm like, what is that? But anyway, that and then just structure as making sure that she uh she eats and she has her medication, just going down there and making sure she's doing what she needs to do at certain times. But I find myself, that's the part of the structure I don't have, is getting there at certain times. Sometimes I'm just on the fly because I work from home too, but I still
Hmm.
have to do my job too, but and then get down there to make sure that she's doing what she needs to do. So that's some of the things that I do, and I also Meals on Wheels. Those are that's another way that, because I don't cook. There's so she got to eat. So and so she not eating cereal and oatmeal and stuff for dinner. I
Tell the
said I was
truth,
gonna.
shame the devil.
I do not cook. She was the cook. So that's another way I am trying to get structure on her meals. If I can, I said, if I can get 2 meals a day from them with Meals on Wheels, I can handle breakfast because that's the easiest part, of the
Hmm.
day for me. It's just that when life gets life in the day, then now you got to stop, get lunch. Now you got to stop and figure out dinner. So those are some of the things that I do. Anyone else has any kind of tips?
Um, what you said about just having things mapped out, that structure really does come into play. Like for instance, my father-in-law has a structure. Like when I get up, I'm good. I have that time to myself as far as devotion and getting myself ready for work. But my schedule with him starts at 7:45 a.m. You know, enough time for me to get him situated, make sure he's good, and go from there. And I have check-in time, 7:45, noon, 5 o'clock, and then of course at night and whatnot. So while I'm working, he's aware of my time frames, and I make sure I have alarms set. So when that alarm vibrates, okay, it's 12 o'clock. Yeah, I mean, I may be in a meeting, but right after that meeting, I need to make sure I go check on him, make sure he's good, right? As far as food is concerned, I think that that's something that we've navigated pretty well. Of course, I cook, so we can have meals where I cook and prep those meals for him for lunch. As far as breakfast goes, he does have a caretaker that's been assigned to him, um, because he's a veteran. So they come a few hours every day for 5 days a week to be his companion, to sit with him, to chat with him, talk with him, make sure he's good, make sure he eats his breakfast, medication, and all that. That alleviates a lot of the things that I'm responsible for in the moment. Well, of course, on the weekends we have that, and I think just having that schedule really does help, because if you don't have something that you can just lean on, like you said, you are going to be like flying by the seat of your pants, and you may end up forgetting something very, very important, and you don't want that. One thing I will recommend: recording is good as far as recording, going on doctor's visits and things of that nature. But I also have a group chat that I'm a part of with my wife and Mr. And her sisters, right? So every time I'm at his appointment and the doctor's talking, I'm taking notes and I'm asking all of the questions. I'm asking about all the medication. I probably know the medication better than anybody else. I know what he takes, how often he takes it. I know everything that's going on with him. I know the doctor's names by some of the doctors by first name, because I'm trying to make sure I'm just as involved in his care. And sometimes my son comes with us. So because he gets that experience, if and when something happens and I need those types of appointments, my son knows how to advocate for me. So it's just being that example of doing things the right way.
Yeah, you have to be organized. And if you come into this and you're not organized, you're gonna try to get organized really quick, or you're just gonna fall, and you're gonna. And it's, to me, the more you fall behind, the more you get behind. The more you get behind, the more you get stressed. The more you get stressed, the more that you start to break down. The more you start break down, that's when all those emotions start coming in. And not saying I got this way, but I'm just kind of thinking about that wheel, because you love your person, right, that you're taking care of. But a lot of that exhaustion and being tired and overworked um, and just pushed. I am an only child, and so everything is on me. I do have my family that help me with a little bit of things. My husband has been good too, but that's me. That so I have to make sure that I don't get on that wheel and just burn myself out, and just make sure. So that leads me to, because we're talking about ways to structure, but the resources as well that we can use to help us. I know I mentioned Meals on Wheels, but Bobby, I know you use certain services as well. I know that uh, if you want to share that, I'm not going to tell what services those are, but I know that there's in Ohio, there's a passport program that you can help. And I also found out, if depending on the person, because you have to qualify, you can also get paid as a caregiver to kind of help alleviate some of that, financial strain. So you can look up whatever's local in your area to find out if that's something that you qualify for. So Ohio has I said the passport program. What else do they have? FMLA, if you have FMLA at your job, that can help alleviate a lot of that strain and thinking that you have to be everywhere, and be on for everything. Take that time for yourself. They have intermittent FMLA where you take it as you need it. And then they have that if you need to have like weeks off, if you qualify, look into that as well. At your some employers don't offer it, but that's one thing that you can look into. And I know I mentioned long care insurance. Just knowing what options you have and talk to people. Don't be afraid to share what you're going through, because that's how I have learned about resources. I'm like, oh, did not know about that, and because I'm not ashamed to say that I need help, people are helping. People are saying, hey, I remember you said this, and look into this program and look into this program. Now, I may not qualify for it, but the point is, look into it. Some programs you got to be just down and out to qualify for, unfortunately. But the point is, if you talk, people will listen and people will help.
I agree. So with my father-in-law, as I mentioned before, he is a veteran, and through the VA out here where I reside, I mean, they've been very helpful in regards to making sure that he has all the resources that he needs, from his appointments to his medication to supplies. But there are certain things that if you don't really inquire about, that you won't know that you can obtain, such as
Mhm.
like getting paid to actually take care of your loved one. They call it aid and assistance or aid and attendance, if I'm not mistaken, through the VA. And that's something that you do have to go through a process to do that. But it is something worth looking into if they're receiving some type of stipend monthly. You know, a lot of people, they would, if you put them in a nursing home, guess who receives that stipend? The nursing home.
The government,
The
the
government
nursing
does,
home, or
right?
the nursing home.
Right. And so,
Hmm.
and I think that's where a lot of the pushback comes from in regards of like placing their loved ones in a nursing home, because you don't know, they're afraid of what type of care that they're going to get as opposed to them taking care of themselves or whatnot. Um, with us, that's different because we know we're more than capable of making sure that he has what he needs. So with everything that he has, you know, sometimes there can be, depending on what claims, there could be an increase that level could possibly get through the VA. You just have to go through the proper processes to find out, because as you get older, things change, and your evaluation from a few years ago could be different than your evaluation currently. So you just have to stay on top of those things just to make sure that you're doing the most and the best that you can for your loved one, because they deserve it, right? Um, as far as being out in my area, I know that 211 Texas was something that I leaned on. It's like it was a hotline, because I wasn't familiar with the VA at first. I didn't know, and with things changing and things shifting, I wanted to make sure I was well versed with that. So, 211 Texas is like an online portal and a hotline. It connects families with services, like food aid, like you said, with Meals on Wheels, home safety programs, senior services, and things of that nature. Um, Another thing that I learned was, and I think this is something that I learned it recently, and I shared it with y'all before the podcast, was that when someone mentions the word hospice, is something that is a negative connotation to an extent. It's like, oh, they're getting ready to go out, and there's nothing else we can do. But hospice is actually completely different. It's making sure that your loved one is comfortable and they have everything that they need. They are the priority. So that's something that's also worth looking into as well, or palliative care, things of that nature. Because it's going to come to a point in time where you can't do what you need to do. You can only do so much, right? And they're going to need that additional care. So, looking into those things and doing your research really does make a world of difference. And I'm thankful that I was able to collaborate with my wife and my family to actually look into those things for my father-in-law. Because had I not done that, or had we not done that together, man, we could have been missing out on a lot of things that he needed in the moment. For instance, such as oxygen, right? Oxygen, man, we don't appreciate it as much, but man, when you need it's vital, right? And but because we were able to reach out to those resources, we were able to get him the oxygen that he needs. So
And I find sometimes, even if you ask and you don't qualify, I have found that those people who I'm talking to on the phone and then those programs will say, "Well, check into this." So that leads to another door that may open to you. So once again, it's just asking, because all they can say is no. That's what that's the worst you can get is a no, right? But
exactly.
you surprisingly, you may get a yes. And even when I was thinking, when Bobby you were talking, you knew that your father was a veteran and he'd had those benefits in, well, he VA benefits. He was going to the VA. But what, and you think about those people who may come into being a caregiver and knows that their loved one was a veteran, but they never tapped into those resources. They can still, I would try, like, hey, I'm caregiving for such and such now. They are veterans. Is there anything that you can do to help me navigate these waters so I can get the benefits for them? So just because they're not taking advantage of it doesn't mean they can't take advantage of it. I mean, at this point,
I agree.
yeah, I try anything, and even taking care of yourself. Just to go back and don't mean to go back and forth, but I just was thinking about this when you were saying something, Bobby, when you said that you and your wife went away because that's self care, and
Hmm.
someone else stepped in. They have what's called, and I think I'm saying it right, respite,
Respite
where,
care.
yeah, so there are programs in certain localities or cities that you can enroll in so that someone can come and give you and tag you in, tag in so that you can do. I don't know if they'll tag in and let you go anywhere overnight, but a few hours sometimes is having a breather to not focus on anyone else aside from just maybe just sitting still for a little bit just to figure it out. So respite care was one. Even tax deductions, dependent care, right? When we thought dependent care when we were growing up, child care, that's the main thing we thought about. But now they have adult dependent care. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of jobs have it as far as part of their insurance. Um, and then also, and I'm just telling everything because I'm learning, so I want to give everybody some information. So jump in if you got some information too. Is that here where we are, the I had the Western Reserve. I forget what the entire name is, but it's the Western Reserve. They came and put the bars on the shower for my mom, and so that she could take a shower with, hold on the bars. She didn't qualify for them to do it for free, but they did it for a decent price. So I didn't have a problem with that. And he came and zip 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 because I was gonna try to do it, but I was like, I'm thinking, okay, I try to do it, and the thing fall off, and she down she go.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Because
Living in
I'm
the
a
moment.
DIY. I will DIY, but some things is just like, you know what? Don't.
Don't do it. Don't do
Don't
it.
do
Right.
it. Yeah, because I would feel so bad. But if you looking into that, and and with my mom, her Medicare. covered a hospital bed for her so that she can sleep comfortably, because getting her in and out the bed is hard. So a hospital bed has that up and down kind of thing, and she got the monkey bars, monkey the trapeze bar. It's not a monkey bar. I know people like, what in the world? It's the bar that they can pull themselves up with. They call them a trapeze bar. But anyway, those type of things. I mean, I found so many things online too that when they, you got, there's a motorized chair they can get. You can get the, if they want to sit up, not the chair itself, but there you can put a cushion in the chair that's motorized that helps them get up. And it's just so many different things out there. If you doing it by yourself and you're trying to move somebody, have you ever tried to move a body? Don't answer that. I mean, a live body.
Thank you for putting that adjective in front
Yeah,
of that.
a
Alive
live
body.
body.
Alive body.
Yeah, a live body.
Yes. Answer
And
is yes. I've tried moving a live body.
that is
Yes.
hard work on you. And they have these slides that you can buy. I got them off Amazon. They have handles and they slides across the bed. And look at Bobby, like, yeah, I know about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. We have those for
Did you?
my wife and her wife and her sisters. Whenever I went out of town, they have those where you can put under them. So when you need to transport, like or move them when you're changing or whatever, it's easy. It makes it so easy.
I did not know these things existed to make my
Mhm.
world. So I've ordered so much stuff. Right now, she's in a rehabilitation center. But when she come back, she got so many toys, so many things that I am just like, oh, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. I mean, I got her the bed tray. When you're hospital, you have the bed trays that fit under your bed, because sometimes you have a tray that only sits side. But these, like in a hospital, they fit under. You can get those too for your loved ones too, so they can have things close to them. The bed trays, the lights. I mean, so many things that will help you. And the biggest thing that I say I got was a life alert. So, so that even if she can't call me on the phone, but what if she drops the phone? The life alert she has around her neck, and she can get the help that she needs right away. So that's a big thing too. If you have someone that you love, having a basically panic button for them. So those are just some of the things that I found online and looked up through my research. Hopefully that some of those nuggets helps someone who's listening navigate those areas. Um, did we talk about federal tax credits? Yeah, that's the family. That's the child independent care
Yeah,
credit. That's the
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah,
We touched on it, and I think
yeah.
that's very important. I believe because when you think about it, that those people or that person that you love and cherish, they're in your home, and you are spending an additional amount of money to take care of them. Because let's just be real, sometimes people don't have benefits, right? You know, it's like, hey, it's spur of the moment. Hey, I need assistance, and now it's taking care of another dependent in your residence, right? So yeah, being able to inquire about that information, whether you file your taxes with someone or you're doing it on your own, is very very helpful. My wife and I have a running joke with my father-in-law. We call him our elder baby because basically that's what that in a sense that's kind of what he is.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things that he can't do on his own that we assist him with, but there are some things he can do on his own. And with that, you want to make sure that you're taking the proper channels to make sure that you're being compensated for what you're doing. Um, yeah, so I wanted to say that. So yeah, definitely look into that. If you have been doing it, especially for an extended amount of time, if you can provide, keep up with all your proof, your receipts and things of that nature, just to make sure that you're doing right by yourself.
How do you help them? Because you said, just to go back to, and thank you for that.
Hmm.
There's some things he can do on his own, and some things he can't. How do you help people who are so independent? They live their lives in such a way, the way they wanted to live it, right? Um,
Hmm.
and they were able to take care of themselves. How do you, as caregivers, navigate that emotional toll that it takes on them not you, but on them, because they have to be feeling some kind of way. I know my mom would sometimes not call me and let me know that she needed help because she didn't want to bother me. And it's never a bother. How do you navigate that with your loved one if you've had that issue?
I think I think it's important that you really sit down and have a conversation of saying, I'm not trying to take away your independence, but clearly there is some help that's needed, right? And I can just I'll go back to my grandmother, and she was where I live, and
Secret.
they right. But one thing that they did was they reassured her that as long as she was able to, that they would bring her back here so that she could still stay connected, right? Um, when they moved her, they made sure that she had all of those things that was familiar to her. They still gave her some things to do that didn't strip away her independence, like of course, it was supervised in the kitchen, although she would say, now, baby, I miss some ingredients every now and then. But, you
Like,
know, yeah. And so when I think of like my aunt and the situation that she's in, it's just really just trying to, talk to her to say, hey, no one is trying to, strip your independence, but we want to make sure that you are taken care of. And so, as she's getting ready to think about her relocation, it's, she doesn't want to live with anybody, right? So, ensuring that, okay, you can go wherever you want to go. We're not going to strip that, not we, because I don't have the power to be able to do that. But you can still have some of this independence, but not so far away from family. So I think it's a conversation. I think it's also still allowing them a little bit of, depending on where they're at, right? To be able to still do some of the things that they like to do. I mean, like, okay, just saying, if you like to go to bingo, let her go to bingo. You know what I mean? And even allowing, if they're able to still be a part of the decision for their care. Yeah. Because when you
definitely.
start stripping that away, that's when you get that defiancy. That's when you get, you know, who are you to tell me what I can and cannot do? I think so. Allowing them to be a part of some of the decisions and talking to them, because one thing about it, it is them, right? It's their life. And so making them feel comfortable enough in that space and in this transition.
Well
Bobby,
said.
when you moved your father-in-law in, did you move familiar pieces of furniture did you to make his area his?
Yes and no. There were some things that we moved in that he was familiar with, things that he would gravitate toward on a daily basis. But there were also some things that we decided as a collective to just let go because at this particular point, he doesn't need access to any of that. He can't use it in the way he used to use it. So why hold on to that? Less is more. That's how we can buy him another dresser or whatever the case may be. We can do all of that. That's fine. But the sentimental things that he really that we can't replace. We wanted to make sure that he had those things and that we brought those things into our home. So that was easy for us to do because he wasn't the type to just keep any old thing. He was pretty organized, so it was easy to find those things and bring them in. But the things that it's funny because the things that he really didn't use, those are the things that he really asked about. I'm like, man, we got rid of that like a year ago. He's like, why'd you do that? And I'm like, you weren't using it. But that's another story.
He's like,
Um,
I remember that.
yeah, I'm like, come on, man. But I will say this, Chopper was so right. Having that conversation with them and letting them know, hey, yeah, but I would preface by saying, depending on your relationship with your loved one, determines how you deliver the message. I'll put it that way because my father-in-law and I, we have a really cool relationship. So I would say when I relay things to him, it's more along the lines of, listen, bro, you know you can't do that no more. I don't understand why you're trying. This is not what you do. For instance, smoking. He doesn't smoke anymore. He hasn't had a cigarette in months. I was the one who made him go cold turkey. So it's like every time he asked for one, I'm like, no, you can't have it. And he would say, why? Every single time. Well, why can't I? And so I would have to have that conversation all over again. Man, look, you can't smoke. You know, you can't do that. Plus, there's oxygen in the room. You want to blow me up? You want to blow me up? Is that what we're doing now? You lived your life. I'm trying to live some more. Let me go, man. Don't take me out. But those are the types of conversations that we have. They're a little bit more candid, but at the end of the day, he does get the point. In
He gonna
addition to
DoorDash
that,
a pack of cigarettes.
I wish he would. I wish it has to come through me first. It has to come through me first. So I don't think he's that savvy to do it. But if he was, I would applaud him, and then I'll probably rip him up in his face and throw him away. So that's what I would do. But I will say this: as far as making sure that you don't take away their independence, I am the one that would say, "Hey, you can feed yourself today. You're going to feed yourself at least one time out of the day, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You have to do it because I don't want you to become too dependent on someone else. Because at that point, you're just it's like you're giving up. I don't want that. So if you can feed yourself, if you can turn the television on a different channel, I'm going to hand you the remote. I'm going to give you everything you need to do it. I'm going to coach you through it. I'm going to celebrate you when you do it, so you don't lose that drive, that motivation, right? Um, and he's not mobile as far as being able to walk on his own. So I'm like, hey, we're gonna schedule time this weekend. We're gonna ride, man. We're just gonna get out the house and just roll. Put on your shades. Let's get out of here. Let's do something. Because even though he's not physically able to get around and do the things and go to places where he normally would go, just being in another element and just
Hmm.
outside of that room really brightens him up. Even if it's just going to sit on the patio. Like that's just getting him out of that atmosphere of just being cooped up. And those are the benefits of actually caring for your loved ones at home because you have the freedom to take them and do things, together on your accord. So, yeah, I'm with you, Chopper. Just setting those expectations and not stripping them of that independency really does come into play.
One thing that I wanted to, as we start to come to a close, one thing too that I wanted to talk about, their independence and their rights and decision making, also their paperwork is very important to figure out what they got. I know if the generation that my mom's generation, they kept everything. When I say every everything, they kept I, paperwork from decades that you have to navigate through. So have those conversations with what is this, and what do I need to do with this? I had my mom's. We did living wills, power of attorneys. We did all of that. We got all of that stuff into place, and that's an important part of it. So if you have a legal plan, if you have, you can even go online and get these documents. You really can, and print them off, and you can make sure all the they're basic, but make sure that the loved one is okay with it. Don't go start signing, putting stuff in a wheel and then taking it to get notarized and be like, this is what we talked about, right? Remember?
I know I don't remember.
Yes,
No,
indeed.
but no, I'm talking about them remember. You're
Yeah.
like, because they will ask, or is because I know when my mom and I we were in the notary, and she'd ask directly to my mom. She wasn't talking to me. She's direct. Are you authorizing or you're okay with all the information that's presented in this document? And they make sure that she's coherent and that she's not being coerced to
Right.
do anything. But the point is, it's a simple process. Even if you just, get something in place because you just need something, especially if they go into the hospital. living will, durable power of attorney. You need those documents because they're going to ask for them. Number one, who's the decision making force person for them. So you need to have those things. So that's another important thing as a caregiver. Find out what they have and what you need to get in place as far as documentation and paperwork to make sure that you can advocate for them.
I agree.
Yeah.
Advocate in the correct way. I mean, I think for our younger generation, they may have to get into like the digital scanning, like find those documents and do digital scans so you can have that in a safe place. 'Cause sometimes those physical documents they get lost, misplaced. You don't know where you put it. The loved ones don't know where they put it, and it gets lost in the sauce. Get those items, do a digital scan, just to make sure you have those things on record in a safe place. So if you do need to advocate and say, okay, well, we need this documentation to move forward, you actually have it. You can go to it and actually print it off and present it. Um,
That's
and
a
I
good
don't know,
idea, Bobby. I didn't
yeah,
think about that. I'm just thinking about the paper part of it because I got the paper part, but I didn't think of digital. Good
yeah,
idea.
do like a digital scan. That way you can have it in a safe place, and it can be have a certain pass key that only select people will have access to. So in the event that that folder that you've been stacking the paper up with gets lost in a move or relocation or
Mhm.
something, you have those documents, and I get it. Sometimes they need the original, and I understand that. But for some documents, there are indications that will let you know through that digital copy what is original and what's not, right? Because they're timestamped, they're encrypted,
Mm.
and with each scan, and so you can't modify them in a certain way. So
Oh,
that's something that you can look into. Another thing I wanted to touch base on was like estates. Like if you have family members who have estates and things of that nature, you don't want to end up losing that land. So I know my mother, before she passed away, she made sure that everything was set up for my brother and my sisters regarding my grandmother's land, her mom, because at the end of the day, that was something that my grandmother purchased, she paid for, and when she passed away, my mom took over the property tax and everything, and she was taking care of that, and so that responsibility falls on us, and so we had to make sure that we were in alignment with everything that goes with that. So look into that as well. If they have any kind of property and things of that nature, you don't want that to go back to the city. You want to make sure that you can pick up where they left off of property tax, and that you can do what's best. And that's where the living will comes into play too. What are the wishes of your loved one when it comes to that property, when it comes to the assets, and make sure that it's I guess you could say divvied up, or it put presented in a way where whoever's supposed to be the recipient after that person transitions actually gets it with as little legal trouble as possible. I guess you could say.
no probate.
Right. That part. That
No
part.
probate. So I gained some good information, some good nuggets because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna scan stuff now. I mean, I didn't even think about electronic documents for my own keepsake, paper keepsake as far as her paperwork. So thank you, Bobby. Thank you both for sharing, and I hope that you, as listeners, as we draw to a close, you're out there, you're caregiving for someone, a loved one, a family friend, whomever. I hope that you were able to take away some information, something that was helpful for you as you navigate these waters and the ups and downs that you're going to go through, because it's not going to be easy. And as long as that person's here and you are committed to doing that, it's a journey. Just put it that way. It's a journey. You get up every day and you do it. Um, and you wanna leave our listeners with anything?
um, I would say while you're taking care of your loved ones, man, the quality of life is very, very important. Make sure you love on them. That's probably the best advice I can give. Love on them. Like we don't know, when our last breath is going to be. So love on them, man. Like take care of them as you would want someone to take care of you. You're setting the table for someone else to come up and say, "Hey, when you get down, I got you." Right. So Love on them, make them laugh, make them smile, man, make them feel like they're their old selves, regardless of what condition that they're in, because their mind state, in like their mentality or whatever, makes they may have those memories, right? And so we want to make sure that we contribute to that, right? The good times, and like I said, just continue to love on them.
Yeah. And love on you.
Oh,
Simple.
there you go. Yeah, you
Agreed.
say love on
Agreed.
you. Take care of yourself. That's true. And just think about too that I think about the example that I'm setting. Not that I'm doing it for anybody for show or anybody. I'm doing it because I love my mother and I'm going to take care of my mother. But I hope that even quietly setting the example, people are seeing so that when it's time to take care of me, they take care of me.
Right.
No, but I'm joking. But no, seriously, as far as the example, so that we can get those generational um, ties going again. So it can be the norm that if grandma go down, that's all right. Grandma stay here. If mom go down, that's all right. Mom stay here as long as they can. Because sometimes that isn't the case, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's not medically um, able possible. But I just want us as a society to start taking care of one another. And like you said, loving on one another and taking care of one another. I got you. You're never going to be a burden. And don't think you are. And I got you. So, with that being said, that's our caregiver program. So, episode, not a program, but episode. So, I encourage you as caregivers to seek support, share your stories with other people, let people know what you're going through, and listen as other people go through things. Thank you for listening to Your Point, My View. Catch us on YouTube, Spotify, or where you listen and download your podcast. Till next time, protect your peace.
Peace.